in the polynomial expression above, a is a constant. If the expression is divisible by x minus 3, what is the value of a? So we're looking for the value of a in this case, and generally when they ask you if one expression is divisible by another expression, they just want you to see if this right here, x minus 3, is a factor of this expression here. So your first instinct in a case like this should be to factor. You could also do this by long division, but I would not recommend it. You could also use synthetic division, which is pretty easy to do, but in this case, factoring is going to be our best methodology moving forward. So that should always be your first instinct. To check to see if something is divisible by something, just try your best to factor that particular expression out and see if that works. And in this case, you'll see that it works out really nicely. It just requires a little bit of thought process here. So let's go ahead and rewrite this expression first. So we have x to the fourth minus 3x cubed minus ax squared plus 15x. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do factoring by grouping. I'm going to group these two together, and then I'm going to group these two together over here. And so for the first one, I'm going to pull out the x cubed, right? So I'll pull out the x cubed, and inside I'll be left with x minus 3. And you'll see how when you do that, that x minus 3 shows up immediately over here, right? So it's a good indication that we're on the right track. And then for the second one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a negative a and an x. So I'll pull out the negative a, and I'll pull out this x, one of the x's over here. So on this expression right over here, all I'll be left with for the first term is an x right here. And then for the second expression, I'll be actually left with a negative, because I pulled out a negative a out of here. So essentially what I'm doing is dividing this by negative a, dividing this by negative a as well. So I'll be left with minus 15 over a, like that. That's exactly what happens here, because remember, when I pull out the x cubed, what I'm doing is I'm dividing this by x cubed, dividing this expression, this whole thing by x cubed, pulling that out, and then just multiplying it on the outside. That's what's happening here. So the same thing's happening here. And I know that in this instance, I need to be able to factor out this x minus 3, right? Because the expression is divisible by x minus 3. And the only way to factor out this x minus 3 is to ensure that this right here and this right here are equal, so that both of these can be essentially removed from the expression here. I want the x minus 3 on the outside, and I should be left with this x cubed minus ax on the inside. So in order to do that, I need to make sure that this x minus 15 over a is equal to x minus 3. That's all I really need to do. So I can go about this very easily by essentially saying, by subtracting x from both sides, so this x will go away. And that leaves me with negative 15a, apologize for that. Negative 15 over a is equal to negative 3. We can drop the negatives on both sides, turn them both positives, and this gives us 15 over a is equal to 3. And that means a is equal to 15 over 3. So that means a is equal to 5. So our correct answer in this case is 5.